Hi, I'm TV's Mick Shaffer,
And we're Screen on the Spot.
and it's time to get to know me
Through movies.
through movies.
That was one of our better ones.
Good. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
That was perfect.
I've seen some of these.
Well,
so it's
some
a little
people
bit-
I
Oh,
feel
you
like
have.
been very serious about it. It's like, okay, like this is like a
Yeah.
serious interview. It's like, no, this is
No, it's not.
This is not
Well, first of all,
serious.
my name's not Mick.
It's not.
No, not even my middle name. It's Joseph Michael.
Really?
Where
Well,
did
my
Nick
parents-
come from?
My parents have always called me Mickey. So I go back to my hometown. It's Mickey.
Yeah.
And so I
What?
think
Interesting.
my dad was a huge Mickey Mantle fan growing up.
Okay.
They're both from the same area of Oklahoma. And so I think that was a way to, because my mom was never going to name me Mickey. So putting Michael as the middle name was a way to kind of scoot around that. And
Look at that.
That was it.
Joseph Michael.
Joseph Michael. And then I got a little bit older. I'm like, okay, Mickey sounds like I'm 6. So Mick sounds like I'm at least 10. So
You could have been a
After that.
Joe.
I could have been a Joe. Everybody's named Joe, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Does anybody call you Joe?
Nobody has ever called me Joe. When I was in 4th grade, for whatever reason, 2 of my best friends were named Mike and Michael. So I'm like, I'm going to go by Michael as well. So I made it more confusing on my teacher. So my 4th grade yearbook, it says Michael Shaffer instead of Mickey. But then I went back to Mickey.
That's all over the place.
All over the place.
Fun fact, I have an older brother named Joseph
Yeah.
and a little brother whose middle name is Michael.
There you go.
So,
But
Okay.
everybody,
That's my loose
I feel like
connection.
everybody does, right? That's why I didn't
Yeah.
want to be just like a Joe
Right.
or a Mike.
My brother's middle name is also Joseph, so yeah.
Oh, look
that
at
must
that.
have been a popular name.
well,
I like Mick. Mick is good. Mick's a good TV name.
It's good, yeah.
It's a good sports dude
Punchy.
name. Like
Yeah,
Mick.
absolutely. It's Mick.
Mick
Hey,
Shaffer.
hey.
Mick
It's fun. He's the fun sports guy.
Yeah, basketball. I have no idea.
You're a little too good at that.
that is pretty good. Well, thanks, Mick, for. Do you watch movies?
Yeah, a lot
Okay.
of movies.
He
I
does.
love movies.
He's a movie guy.
I'm excited to be here. It's almost like I'm, like coming on my day off.
Yeah, thank you for coming in on your day off.
Gladly.
You have forsaken some Golden Tea play because you
That's
just
right,
got a
yeah.
Golden Tea machine in your
Yeah.
house
I know, yeah.
to come to our podcast. So we really much.
Well, you
and he
coming-
drove 28 minutes.
28
Yes.
minutes?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. Also, you didn't have to come in on your home day, which so
Yes.
that's the favor.
Yeah,
That's the nice
We
thing.
traded off.
Yeah,
because
and-
I would have had to come in.
I'm glad Chris is here. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Well-
Chris made the effort. I guess he probably won't even watch this.
Yeah, well, it just means we have nobody to pick on
I know.
for the episode.
That's okay.
usually what Chris's purpose is.
Yes.
Is that right? Well, I want to know all like the cool indie films. He's seen all the films that I haven't seen. I feel like
Yeah.
All the
So
horror
The
movies?
horror.
all the
Yeah.
horror movies.
We have to
Yeah.
be very specific.
And it was a big year for horror movies.
It was a great year.
Smile, the Wizard of Oz, the horror parody
yeah,
of Dorothy.
Yeah,
You know,
Pearl.
Pearl, yeah.
Yep. Barbarian.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Did you see all those?
No, I would love to see Pearl and Smile. I heard from my sons are both huge horror fans. The oldest one can sit there through any scene and just kind of takes it.
It's like,
Kind of
whatever.
scary. My middle one.
How old is your middle one?
He's 16.
Okay.
But he's petrified, and he'll just laugh. He loves to like just scare himself, and so he doesn't handle it as well. But they both said Smile is horrifying.
Really?
Like the scariest movie they've
I don't
ever
even deal with
seen.
the trailers. Like those
Yeah.
trailers come
Yes.
out, I'm like, nope, thank you. I do not.
I
want to see
like
that.
the girl in it. It's Kevin Bacon's
daughter, yeah.
Kira Sedgwick's daughter.
Yep, that's right.
I liked her in Mayor of
Easttown.
Easttown.
She's
Yep.
very good.
Yep. And so good cast. I'd love to see it. Pearl just looks wild and
Yeah.
wacky.
That
and
was
fun.
like Chris's number one movie.
Yeah.
I want to see
he
it.
probably
Yeah.
wishes that he was here so
Yep,
he
he
could
could've-
talk all about Pearl.
He could have
Yes.
vamped about these movies. Well, X is really good, and Pearl's a prequel to X. Did you see X?
No.
Okay, man.
Pearl's a prequel to X. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess you don't really have to have seen X.
Was
to
Mia
watch
Goth
Pearl.
also in
Yeah.
X?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she plays 2 people in X.
Interesting.
Well, I'm like my middle son. I just kind of like to scare myself. I'll turn away at times, just kind of laugh at just
Yeah.
how scared I am.
So do you like movies or TV? Do you prefer one or the other? Because you said Mayor of Easttown, so you clearly watch.
I am.
get into those
I
shows.
absolutely watch a ton more Netflix and Hulu and Paramount and Peacock and AMC and whatever
them.
they're all. Oh gosh, yeah, we've got all the subscriptions and HBO Max and Showtime and all that. I definitely watch a lot more of that, but I'm a huge go to the movies guy, and so it's tough. I mean, obviously with my job, I work nights, and then the days I am off, I have a lot of kids stuff. So about once a month or so, we'll get out and see something as a family.
What is something you usually seek out? Like, what is there a specific genre, or are you kind of open to all of
Yeah, I
it?
love comedies. I'm like I'm not like a movie snob. I'm gonna like 90% of the
Yeah.
movies I see.
That's
Right?
what I feel like I am
Yes.
too. Like, there's not a movie that I'm just like, oh, this is. I mean, there are some movies where I
not
think
true.
you think.
Sarah's
honestly,
very picky.
Okay.
I don't think I am though.
I feel like there's
think
a lot-
I
yeah.
enjoy most of what I see,
Yeah.
but I pick apart most of what
That's
I
fair.
see.
You also are like sometimes you'll see something and you think like that's not very good, but then like later you're like, no, it was okay.
It
It's like
takes
you
me-
really,
I
it's
have
like
to
you want
marinate
to.
on
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
that I'm like immediately like. Usually I'm not like that was terrible. I can usually find
Yeah.
something good about it.
We always joke that like if she likes something,
Yeah,
that means it's
and it's
very
good.
good.
It means
Or
it's
if-
very good.
Or if
It's
she
good.
says, well, no, that was okay. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna love this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of people like that. I feel like they like 3 movies in a row, they gotta find. I gotta dislike the next
Oh,
3
yeah.
movies. I'm like, wait, it's Top Gun. How
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
dislike that. No, so I'm not picky. Love the action adventure. Love the comedies. We got into, and we'd all seen most of them before, but of course during the pandemic we watched all the Marvel movies, watched them in
Yeah.
order, did that whole thing, all 22 or 23 of them. So the whole family, from my 11-year-old
got
daughter
together.
to my year-old wife, everybody loves the Marvel movies, and
Yeah.
so we'll seek those out,
Sure.
I guess, whenever they
I
come
have a
out.
caveat to that previous
Okay.
conversation. I feel like the movies that, because I end up watching a lot of snobby
Yeah,
movies, because my
that's
husband
true.
is a cinemaphile, like he
Yeah.
loves movies, so we end up watching a lot of the snobby ones.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I end up not liking.
Give me a snobby one.
Like,
Well, Paul Thomas Anderson movies are
any
usually.
PTA movie.
Yeah.
Love Paul Thomas
I
Anderson, yeah.
can't stand, like, he just, most of his movies, I'm just like,
PTA,
I don't
yeah.
understand what's going on. That stupid Speak No Evil one that we just
Oh, well,
watched.
yeah.
Like, hated that. I mean,
Sure.
anything that's just like not a mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
Not
yeah.
that I don't like the non-mainstream ones. It just depends what it is. Like if it's super snobby, like a PTA thing, I'm just like, I don't
Yeah.
get it. I understand it. I just did not enjoy
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
So that's when I get very like, this sucks.
Yes.
Please don't watch it.
Yeah. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I just kind of like. I don't have a thing. I guess I just like
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have superhero movies. I guess would be
Yes.
the things that I'm usually more.
Thank God we had comic books, because otherwise we wouldn't have half the movies
I
we
know.
have out
It's
now.
so true.
That is true.
So you grew up in a small town in Kansas.
I did. You know it.
I do.
Right? Yeah.
Caldwell?
Caldwell. Yes.
Yes.
We went to the same college at different times.
yes.
I'm way older.
Oh.
Not that
But you know
much
my
older.
brother-in-law,
Yep,
right?
I
Who
went
went
to
to
school
that
with his
college,
brother-in-law. We have that
Southwestern
connection.
College.
The Mound Builders.
The Mountain.
So that's our.
That's right.
that's
Did
our
you graduate
connection.
from there?
Yeah.
I went
I
2
went all 4
years
years.
there,
You
and
went
then
two.
I transferred.
Yep.
But
You
yeah,
were
small
too
town.
cool.
We didn't have a movie theater in our town, so the closest one was probably really Wichita. Mm-hmm. So it was an hour away. So
Did
it
you
was
go very often?
Yeah, it
when
was a
you were
big
kid?
event to go to the
Yeah.
movies. I mean, every couple months or whatever.
What are
So,
some of your memories of things that like your parents would take you to see? In the
Um,
big town of Wichita.
My dad was a huge movie fan. Of course, he's old school, all the westerns and everything, all the war movies. But he's a big go to the movies guy, so I probably got it from him. But I think one of your questions you asked, the first movie I remember seeing was E.T., and they took me to it probably no less than 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
I remember them. I'm like, I just want to go see E.T. again, and they take me to it, and I just fell in love with this movie, and then going to them, I think at that point. But yeah, that would have been, is it 82, 83? So I would have been
Somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
in the 80s.
5-ish, something like
Yeah.
that.
It's like the most recurring one on here, I think.
E.T.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It comes up a lot.
it was a big hit.
Well, it's very
Good
good.
movie. It's very good.
I don't know if you've heard of it, people listening.
Yeah.
E.T.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg.
Who? No, I'm just kidding.
Holds up too. My kids have watched it and they liked it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times you have movies that are like, that was so good, and really it was like, okay, when you were that age you liked it, and now when you grow up and movies are made so much better now, you watch it and you're like, okay, maybe. it
What
wasn't
was
that
the video store in Caldwell?
good. I worked at it.
Yeah.
I worked at it.
Yeah.
It's
Tell us
called the
about
Movie
that.
Shop.
Movie
And
shop.
so it was, my dad was the pharmacist in our tiny hometown, and in the back, probably when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12, he opened up the back to another store. He rented out the space, and it was a movie shop, and it was the boom of rental movies, late 80s, right? And they came in, and it was packed. People would come in all the time, and so I always wanted to work there. And they said when I turned to 14 or something like that, I could work there. But I think I started working there by the time I was 13. and it was awesome. I would just pop in movies and watch them in the back, and then every like 20 minutes or so, a customer would come in. I'd pause it, come and help them find a movie, and then back then it was like you had, I mean, if it was a brand new release, you maybe had 3 copies of, I don't know, Terminator, okay, or Terminator 2. That was it. And so it was a race to make sure, okay, people would come in to see if it was returned in time. If it wasn't, they would just kind of hang out to see if so-and-so was going to bring it back. I remember calling the people saying, hey,
you would call the customer?
Yeah. Hey, Ron's here waiting for Terminator. It's due back today. You think I can bring it up when you're uptown? Yeah, no, I'm coming up to get groceries. I'll drop it by. And so that was my first ever job at the movie shop.
That's awesome.
Amazing. I love that you called customers. I was a Blockbuster employee.
Have you seen
in high school.
the Blockbuster documentary?
I couldn't do it. Oh, the documentary, yes.
Yes.
But there is also a
The Last
TV
Blockbuster
show that's like a comedy.
Okay,
It's
this
terrible.
is called The Last Blockbuster.
Yes,
it's
I did
in,
see that. I've been there, Bend, Oregon.
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's a trip down memory lane.
Totally. Yeah, I went there a couple years ago. We happened to be in Bend, Oregon. I'm like, this is the place where I think the Blockbuster is, and we went there, and it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember, stocking the shelves and cleaning the poles and like all that stuff.
What kind of Blockbuster was this, Sarah?
Okay, sorry.
Because
they had those brass poles.
Where was that? It was
in Derby.
In Derby,
yeah,
Derby.
It was the Derby Blockbuster.
The Derby Blockbuster.
So
you wore the blue shirt and everything.
The blue shirt. I still have the pin like that you would wear with your name tag on it. But yeah, it was like definitely memory lane of remembering all that stuff. But we never called customers to see if they were coming.
Well, I mean, you're in a town of like
yeah.
If you count the Wichita area, so a few 100,000.
We were right next to the Charlie's Chicken. So I made a deal. I was wheeling and dealing. I'm like, I will give you free movies if you give me free chicken. So I would work like every night and like hop over to Charlie's Chicken and get nuggets and mashed potatoes and a roll. And,
oh man.
And they would never come in for a free movie, so it was awesome.
That's pretty great. I worked at a movie gallery, and next door was just like a laundromat. We couldn't really. Yeah. What am I going to trade?
Free laundry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Quarters. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I was before. I worked way before there was no such thing as DVDs at the time. It was all just
that didn't come until later.
Yeah.
So where did the interest in sports come into?
Always played them. From small town, played every sport. You had to there, right? And grew up wanting to play. I played at our small college. That's where I peaked out at in basketball, and knew that if I couldn't play, I wanted to be around it. And so I grew up. We had 12 channels. We had channel 2 through 13 growing up. That was it. There was no cable coming in and everything. 12 channels. But we did pay. My parents paid for HBO. So we were the cool house in town. We had HBO. So like Eddie Murphy Raw would come on. My buddies would come over. We'd watch that. All the like the late night HBO. Yeah, sleepovers. We'd always watch it, right? The stuff we shouldn't have been watching. And then I still remember every single channel. 3 was NBC, 4 was CNN, 5 was USA Network, 6 was WGN, 7 was TBS, 8 was one of the 2 PBSs we had, 9 was ESPN.
Channel 8, Hutchinson, Wichita.
That's exactly what it was.
We have a very similar childhood.
Yes, we did.
But
9 was ESPN, and fell in love with ESPN, and that was kind of like as I was growing up. It was literally born right around the same time I was, late 70s, and I grew up watching it, and I knew early on I wanted to be on ESPN, so I was one of those kids.
And here you are.
And here I am on KSHB. Now I know what I know. I don't think I would ever be on ESPN.
Were you always first on air job? Was it here in town, or were you
it was in Topeka. At the NBC station in Topeka, and so Channel 27, and so it was my senior year of college. But I got a full-time half sports, half news job at that station, and then I moved to Cake TV in Wichita for 2 years.
I didn't know you were at Cake.
I was at Cake from 99 to 01, and then I came up here in 01 to Metro Sports, thinking I'm gonna be here for a couple of years, move on, and I was there for 16 years, and then in 2017 I came over here.
That's crazy. It's 2017. It's been that long already.
Yeah,
Nuts.
5.
Yeah, I remember
going
your
on
first
6
day.
years.
You surprised everybody like in the little entryway when people were walking in. I was like, oh, hello. Mick's here. Okay, cool.
Well, I knew you from before. I
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't think you. I knew you were here. So
Yeah. I'm here.
you're still here.
Cool.
Yeah, well, we can start our questions.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. We already answered one. So,
Yes.
what was the first movie we were seeing in the theater? You answered that. We can
E.T.
do a different one.
Multiple times. I
That's
remember
awesome.
5
seeing it.
times. That's a lot to see E.T. in the theater.
It's a lot.
Especially
well,
when you're not close to a movie theater. Like you had to go out of your way to like drive.
right.
To
But I
see
was
that
at the
one.
time. I was the only kid in the family. My brother hadn't been born, so I guess they did whatever
Yeah.
I wanted.
Let's go see
Well,
E.T.
Let's
that
go
and
see E.T.
that was a time when those movies they were out for a long time too. Like they were
Yeah.
just
They were
you know,
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For months.
Right.
And I was E.T. for Halloween. My grandmother, I thought it was the coolest thing at the time. I look back at the pictures, it was just hideous and weird. My grandma made this E.T. whole costume, head to toe.
Like you weren't Elliot, you were E.T.
I was E.T. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
I looked like Elliot, but then I was E.T. and it somehow had the neck that would go up above and the dumpy
Wow.
body and everything, and it was so heavy. And so even in October 31st, I remember going out trick-or-treating and just dying in that thing. But I stayed in it because I wanted to be E.T.
Yeah, it's worth
We
it.
need a picture of that so we
I can
can
find it.
like
Yeah.
pop it up.
Pop it up.
Yeah.
As we're talking about this because I need to see this. What's a movie that you saw way too young?
So probably all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, absolutely, and all the it's Friday the 13th right now.
Oh,
Is it?
that is
It is?
perfect.
Oh, yeah.
All the Friday the 13th. So I was born on April the 13th, and when I turned 13 on April 13th, 1990, it was a Friday the 13th. So I turned 13 on Friday the 13th, and so we got all, I don't know how many were out at the time, maybe 5, all the Friday the 13ths, and we watched them all night long with my buddies. And I had seen them years before. So yeah, probably.
Did they give you nightmares at all? Did
Yeah,
anything
I mean,
give you a nightmare?
if you like horror movies back then, so much different now because now they've tapped into it. It's the imagination, right? It's the jump scare. It's like it's way less gory than what it used to be. If you watch Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, Freddy Krueger has these teenagers on his, on his scissor hands, right? His knife hands, just wielding them around the room, and blood is spurting all over the ceiling and the wall. It's off. I'm like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
oh man, that's
Gory.
I'm like, yeah, that's
Also,
what we watched.
That's some arm strength too to lift.
Oh,
an
yeah, he could do-
entire
Well,
body.
he's in dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in dreams,
Oh,
and
that's
so
right.
in reality,
Yeah.
the girl is just moving all over the place by herself, invisibly.
Physics don't matter.
They don't. And so, yeah, back then, I mean, of course, the Friday the 13th with the chainsaws and, I mean, just the knives and he is cutting people up. And it's that was the scary part, seeing the blood. Now it's the imagination, right? And it's not quite as gruesome and gory. It's more jump scares and just, anticipating stuff.
Yeah, the gruesome ones are like a niche now. It's like
They are,
those
yeah.
Terrifier movies that are like gross out.
Well, I feel
horror
like
films.
they're like Saw type movies too.
Well, yeah.
Where it's
Yes.
just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's just give you torture for
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
hours of your life. Yuck.
What's your favorite movie or TV show with some sort of tie to Kansas City?
So Ted Lasso's up there, but then I wanted to give you like an original answer, and this is a true answer. Did you ever watch The United States of Terror?
Yeah.
I know of it.
Set in Kansas City.
Okay.
It's Toni Collette, who's amazing.
Yeah.
She plays someone with multiple personalities. And I mean, it's a little exaggerated, right? It's Hollywood, but I mean, she'll play like, and she just, I don't know if anybody's really like this, but like she would evolve into like some sort of like male trucker or whatever, and then she would be a housewife or whatever.
Or like
and so
a
she had these
teenager,
4 main personalities that come out, and she couldn't control it. And John Corbett's in it, and I believe it was like Brie Larson's debut.
That's right. It was
First time I ever saw her in something. She played the daughter, and they would always make all these references to Kansas City. They talked about the Dead Mall in Grandview, which I imagine is Bannister or something like that. They would I think they were technically in Overland Park. I don't know if they ever said what high school she went to, but they had all these Kansas City references.
Yeah.
So I liked the show, and then I really liked. I think there's only a couple seasons of it.
I think 3,
Yeah,
maybe
3.
3 seasons.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've only seen the first season.
I didn't know it was a
but
Kansas
it's
City
very good.
one.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. Put that on my list.
That is a good one.
What's your favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers. It's
Hoosiers?
Hoosiers. It's my second favorite movie of all time. I would watch that every day of my life. I made my boys watch it just recently, it was on. And so
Did they like it?
they did. So my
Okay.
my son, especially my middle one, is a cinephile. He appreciates all the old comedies and everything, and he's seen them all. And so he's my go-to.
Yeah. I was curious because I grew up watching that because it's one of my dad's favorites too. And so I've wondered how well, because it's like that and Rudy or some of the underdog ones that you always think about
Yep.
and always reference. And I was curious if what kind
And
of.
Hoosiers is so good. It is. I mean, it's real. Like a lot of times, sports movies are like so bad, and it's like it's either it's like, you can tell these people have never picked up a football, right? They're not
Right.
athletes, or it's like. I feel like most of the football movies, every hit, somebody's doing a backflip, right? Or it's just the biggest hit you've ever
Exaggerated,
seen. It's not true. This, like, the basketball was so right, what they did. I mean, just the fundamentals, how they played back then, and they got actual players. There was a Southwestern College guy.
Was there?
Yes. Have you seen it?
It's been forever since I've seen it, but
So,
yeah, it's been
Buddy,
a really long time.
Buddy is one of the main guys in it. He's famous for Gene Hackman, the coach, tells him, he's like, hey, I want you to guard this guy so closely. I want you to find out what chewing gum he has.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the game, he eventually fouls out, and Gene Hackman looks down the bench, and Buddy's like, Dentine. So it's a great line, and he actually played basketball at Southwestern.
Oh, cool.
And so these are all like kind of like really good high school or small school basketball players. So they're the Hickory Huskies in the movie. It's based on a true story. The real team was in Milan, Indiana, and Jimmy Chitwood was was the character in the movie who was the best player. The real player's name was Bobby Plump, and it really happened. Back then they had no divisions. The smallest school would play the biggest school if they got that far for a state championship, and they got that far and won it all. And so growing up in a small town, oh my God, I wanted to be one of those guys. That was my dream, right, to play.
Like, I can win a state championship.
I played in a
Yeah.
state championship
Oh, you
game
did?
against schools my
Yeah.
size,
Right.
and I lost. So
You made it.
really
You
close
made
to
it
having
there.
the plot of Hoosiers, absolutely.
That's cool.
And it was the last second shot we lost on. If only we would have hit the last
Oh my
second
gosh,
shot.
you were living the movie.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I love that movie. It's so well done. Gene Hackman actually thought that was like the end of his career.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
hard to work with, supposedly. And
I've heard
and
that.
there's a shot of they do a lot of montages, and the music bed is so good. in
Have
it.
we landed on if he's still alive or not? He's
He
one of
is
those
still
that
alive.
He
I'm
is,
always
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
is
but
he
he's like
gone?
90
the
or
voice
2 or
of
something. Yeah.
Home Depot?
That's
Yeah,
right. That's right. But he's still kicking. He's like bicycling and seems
Okay.
That's my
Go
dad.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, my dad has an attachment to Dennis Hopper because of that movie specifically.
Dennis Hopper from Kansas,
Yep.
Dodge City.
Dodge City.
And
That's
so there's one of the montages. There's a famous clip of him when things are going well. It's upbeat music, and it's Hackman and Hopper, the characters. They're laughing on the bench like you think something's going well. Came out later that Hackman had actually turned to Hopper and said, "This is going to be the end of both of our careers." And they started laughing, and they took that shot right there and they put it in the movie.
That's great.
Yeah, because they didn't. He thought this was just some B movie. It's gonna be horrible. But the editor of the movie, I can't remember the name, did it so well, and just the basketball is so well done, and the story's great. And
You have definitely done your homework on that movie.
I love Hoosiers, man. And Barbara Hershey's in it. I don't really like her character, but she's in it. And
I love a good Barbara Hershey movie.
She filmed a movie in Caldwell, in my hometown.
Oh, yeah?
Remember what it was?
It was called, like, I don't know if it's called like Freedom or Baby Freedom. It's basically a story about a woman having a baby and like kind of all natural, out and about, like nursing it. I can't remember. I was just talking about it with my dad not long ago.
Were you like a kid, or was this more
This
recently?
was late mid 70s, maybe.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
before I was even born, and they all still talk about it in my hometown. My hometown. There's a famous actor from Caldwell, Kansas.
Oh, yeah?
He was in a ton of westerns, a ton of movies. He played opposite Marilyn Monroe in a movie, Niagara, I believe. His name is Max Showalter. You guys will know him from one character, though. He was one of the grandfathers in 16 Candles.
No way.
Oh wow.
Yes, he was the one of the when he's the one that says, "Look,
something about her
he's got a booby." See, yeah, he's
Yeah,
the one.
the
That's
boobs.
Max Showalter.
That's
he's
great.
the husband of the wife who has the long cigarette.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
everything. It's not the spectacled grandpa. It's the other one, the Max, kind of the dirty grandpa.
That's awesome.
He's
Caldwell,
from Caldwell,
Kansas's
Kansas.
finest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're dropping all kinds of Kansas connections today.
I know.
That's,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yep.
That was a good question. What's a movie you were so excited to see but incredibly disappointed by?
All right, so there's only been like a few movies I walked out on in the theater, and one of them was I was really excited to see it. AI,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and some people liked it. I hated it.
Yeah.
Haley Joel. It was the Haley
Yeah.
Joel Osment
Yeah.
era, right?
That was
When he
really bad.
Another, yeah,
He,
Spielberg.
he
and-
was the star kid actor. He just got done, with Forrest Gump, and then
Yeah.
what was
Sixth
it?
Sense.
Sixth Sense, obviously, and then there was an old Nicolas Cage movie. He's like an ambulance driver. It's called like Bringing Out the Dead.
Oh yeah. Scorsese. That's a Scorsese movie.
That movie.
Really?
And then a horror film with Sam Neill called Event Horizon.
Yeah.
Right.
Which that's like a cult classic now. There's a whole
Ghosts
following.
on a ship,
Yeah.
right? It was almost like Snakes on a Plane before
Yeah.
before Snakes on a Plane came out. It's like, let's combine like two fears of people
Yeah.
and just put them like a Sharknado type movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
So you get to the point where you're just like, this isn't going to get any better. I'm
yeah,
just
I
gonna
remember,
peace
I
out.
remember I was with my dad, and I'm like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is kind of dumb. Ghosts on a ship. Like, so we went to another movie.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, you snuck into another one?
Yeah, we did. No, my dad. We probably went out and paid
Yeah,
for another movie.
right.
This is what's your favorite movie soundtrack?
So that's a good one. And I thought about it. I don't always pay attention and everything. I remember I had the Last Action Hero CD. Movie. It had a lot of good songs on it. But I probably
One of my favorite movies.
It's great.
It's a great.
love that movie.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And then probably for me and my taste in music, I would have to go with the single soundtrack because there's
Oh yeah.
Nirvana's on there,
Sure.
Smashing Pumpkins.
All that
I'm
90s
a
grunge,
kid of
yeah.
the 90s grunge
Kind of surprised
era.
you didn't
Yeah.
say, why did I just blank on the name? Varsity Blues.
That's a good one. Yeah. Well, that's like I can't think of any songs right now from Varsity Blues. I'm bad at
There
it. I
Goes
draw
My
blanks.
Hero.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
a
right.
good one.
That was
right.
the big one.
I love Foo Fighters.
Singles. What's that movie? Do I know that movie?
Cameron
Yeah.
Crowe. It's like
Yeah,
Matt Dillon and Keira
Bridget,
Sedgwick.
Bridget Fonda. Who I
Yeah.
love.
I love Bridget
I've
Fonda.
heard of it.
It's basically like a coming of age. They all live in an apartment. They're all
Right.
singles and
Yeah.
they're all single and they.
I have a vague recollection
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
I just saw
I
it for
don't
the first
think I
time
ever saw
recently.
It's
I
Cameron
Really?
Crowe.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cult. That's kind of held. It's
Yeah.
kind of a cult classic. It's kind of coming back. I feel like.
There was a lot of, I'm trying to remember what it was, like Nirvana didn't want to be involved and they thought it was going to be a terrible like something
Yeah.
or other, and there's some really funny like behind the scenes stories of that movie.
No, I bet. I've heard some interviews with Cameron Crowe about it, and I love that stuff about just how movies came together, and it's usually just gigantic, just chaotic
Yeah.
mess, right? Even for some of the greatest movies.
Do you watch those movies that makes us
That is a
documentaries
great.
on
I
Netflix?
think I've seen them
Those are
all.
fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The movies that made us. Yeah.
I wish it was longer, honestly. Like, there's
Yeah,
such
so-
short episodes, but I'm like,
Mhm.
you literally got these awesome interviews from these people that made these movies, and then they use like maybe a few seconds
Right,
from
right,
certain
right.
people. I'm like, I could listen to that person
Yeah.
talking about sound like design for
Right.
2 hours.
It's funny. I like just the studio heads thought that, like Forrest Gump was going to be a flop,
Yeah.
and they're putting
Right.
too much money in it. And Tom Hanks and Spielberg, right?
Zemeckis.
So I guess, yeah.
Zemeckis, okay. They both used what was it, their points basically. They
Yeah.
they didn't get paid. They gave up their salary. They just said we'll take the points, which was a great deal because
Oh, yeah.
basically points is based on how much money it makes, and how much they believed in it. And yeah, of course, it was a classic.
That
That's a
movie
classic.
I feel like still holds up too.
Oh yeah.
Like I watched it not.
I
that
think it's
long
my
ago, and I was
son's
like, this is
my
still good.
6-year-old's favorite movie.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it came out 13 years
90?
before he was born.
Right,
So,
mid 90s sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 93, I want to say. something
93
like that.
sounds
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, 93, 94. What movie do you always defend, no matter how bad people say it is?
This is one of my top 5 movies of all time.
Okay.
It's Red Dawn.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just love it. The old version,
The old
not
version.
the
Okay.
new version, whatever. Thor being like Drake and Josh's brother. That would never
I
happened.
didn't know there was an old and new version.
Yeah.
There's a new. The old is Patrick Swayze.
Uh-huh.
Rest in peace. What an actor. And so it's funny. It's like I love The Outsiders, and it's like they took half the cast of The Outsiders and just like we're doing Red Dawn tomorrow, and they started doing Red Dawn the next day because Patrick Swayze's in it. You had Emilio Estevez in Outsiders. You had Charlie Sheen,
Right.
The brothers, right?
Yep.
In Red Dawn. You had C. Thomas Howell was in both. You had there's a couple. Oh, one of the Socs was in Red Dawn, and so similar type movie. And so it's a little far-fetched. Same deal. It's a small town in Wyoming. I'm like, gosh, I want the Russians to attack Caldwell, Kansas. It'd be so awesome, right? We'd go in the woods, not really any woods, whatever, and we'd fight them. And so it's basically they turn into like this kind of guerrilla group in the Wolverines, and they attack the Russians, and they kind of fight back against them until the American forces can take over. And so yeah, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of like apocalyptic, kind of a World War III type deal. That's what it was. But I loved Red Dawn. I loved The Outsiders.
And it's just like a classic, like that era of cast. So it's like that cast has just aged well. Also.
Yeah. Well, and actually, Dirty Dancing almost didn't star.
Patrick Swayze.
No,
Jennifer Grey.
Jennifer Grey,
Oh.
because Jennifer Grey was in Red Dawn, and they dated a little bit in that and had a bad breakup.
Oh.
And so they found Patrick Swayze, and they're like, they really wanted Jennifer Grey. And he actually, before he knew, he's like, I'll work with anybody except for Jennifer Grey. And they're like, oh, well,
I didn't know they were in another movie together.
Yeah.
She was kind of a bit role. Her and Leah Thompson were the sisters that were part of the insurgents. Yeah.
I'm learning all kinds of things
Yeah.
today on this podcast.
This is a great one. What movies or TV shows do you quote the most?
Fletch.
I was going to say we could guess one of them.
I love Fletch. It's my favorite movie of all time. Great cinematic effort, right?
Yeah.
And then Letterkenny's a lot. Do you watch
Letterkenny? I've only seen 5 or 6 of the seasons. Seasons.
It's a
really
niche
fun.
deal. You gotta like. First of all, probably helps to have like the subtitles on because it's about like Canadian hick farmers, right? And they talk so fast.
Yeah.
And then they.
Can you give us an impression? What's a quote that they always say that you always say?
Not my pig, not my farm. So if somebody comes to me, like in the sports office,
and asks you
right,
for something,
and if it's is doing like it has to do with the news or whatever, I'll be like, not my pig, not my farm.
Yeah.
Which means like that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Don't bring this problem to me. So they say that a lot, and a lot of other stuff.
I quote the "to be fair."
To be fair.
And my wife just, what is
Yes.
that from? And she
Yeah.
doesn't know.
Yeah.
She's never watched it.
wait, you sing it?
Yeah.
It's got like 8 or 9 seasons, and they've got a spin-off, Shoresy,
and
they'll be like, how are you now? Good, and you?
yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed Fletch was the answer I expected. So
Yeah, I knew. I mean, at one time I could quote the whole movie
yeah.
just without watching it from start to finish. I can't do it anymore, but I watched it recently with my family, and they hated it because I would say every line before.
Was that their
I
first
can't help
time
it.
watching it?
My wife had seen it. I don't think the boys had seen it.
Okay, so we talk about this a lot on this podcast. Is what's the movie that like you're hoping that your kids will end up loving like you love?
Yeah, I mean that
didn't fare over so well with them.
Yeah, no, I mean they liked it.
Were you disappointed by that?
No, because they love Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
And they love the old Adam Sandler's, the Happy Gilmore, the Big Daddies, the Billy Madisons. So they like that stuff a lot.
How could you not?
Yeah, how could you not, right? And so that's more like obvious humor there, right? Kind of ridiculous, absurd. Where Fletch and Chevy Chase was always so subliminal, right?
Yeah.
And just smart
It's
ass.
like quick lines.
Yeah,
And yeah.
underneath,
Yeah.
right? And that's maybe kind of my style
Sure.
of humor, so that's why I
Yeah.
was attracted to
Or
it.
a lot of like the play on words. Like one of my favorite exchanges in that is with the doctor, where he's like, how do you spell Babar? Is it 2 B's? No, 1.
B-A-B-R. That's 2.
That's 2. Yeah.
Not right next to each
Yeah.
other.
Got your whole fist up there, Doc?
Is there an actor that you have season tickets to?
Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, everything.
And anything Ryan Reynolds. Did you like
Man,
Spirited?
I haven't seen it,
Oh,
man.
It's pretty good.
and so I want to watch it.
He's your
and
man
I
crush?
hate musicals.
Oh, okay. Well,
I never watch musicals. I watched The Greatest Showman, which is good because my daughter, right, she was in love with the movie for like years, it feels like, and maybe a couple others. But I'm not a musical guy. I saw parts of Hamilton. I'm like, no thanks. No thanks. But I would watch this.
Okay, because you have a man crush on Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and then Will Ferrell's in it,
He's
too.
very funny. Yeah, both of them are
he's
very
funny. I mean, Deadpool's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
And Deadpool 2 is up there too, and Deadpool 3 is going to be up there.
Yeah.
And so he's such a good actor, but he's also so funny. He's got that similar. So
like
I was really
biting comedy
as Chevy Chase, right before Chevy Chase got unfunny. I never wanted them to redo Fletch because they talked about it with Jason Lee. Jason Lee was going to redo Fletch, and then maybe some others. I'm like, no. And then Reynolds came along.
You like had an online hate campaign.
I did,
yes.
Yes,
absolutely
I would, put
not.
up signs in my yard. And so when Ryan Reynolds came along, I'm like, that's the one guy that can redo Fletch.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they ever came to him. But now John Hamm did it, and I'm scared to watch. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
It's good, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's what somebody said. It's like and it's probably good that John Hamm doesn't try to imitate Chevy Chase. And so that's probably a good thing. Ryan Reynolds not doing Fletch.
That is a bummer.
Hurts me.
Would have been
because
good.
there's so many books.
There's a
so
lot.
many Fletch books, and they could have made so many. I love Fletch Lives.
Yeah.
Great sequels out there. So.
Yeah, there's your hot take.
Yeah.
What's a classic or widely successful movie that everyone seems to love, but you just don't get?
Godfather.
Oh, no way.
I don't get The Godfather.
You don't get sorry.
Now, here's the problem. So there's I have some blind spots in my movie watching resume. I'd never seen The Godfather until April of last year.
Okay.
And so The Offer was coming out with Miles Teller, which was the story of the making of The Godfather. I can't remember what that was on Netflix.
Paramount Plus.
Paramount. There you go. And I'm like, this looks really good, but I kind of think I need to at least. And I'd heard so many lines from the movie, right, and seen bits and pieces.
It's like you're so super familiar with it,
it's
but you've
part
never
of,
actually watched it. Yeah,
exactly. Pop culture.
I'm in the same boat.
And so I'm like, well, I got to watch it for The Offer. And my son and I watched it. And it was 3 hours.
Yeah.
And at the end, I'm like, oh, I just don't get it. And part of it is movies now are made so much better than movies back then. I'm sure back then that was and it was a masterpiece. Well, I'm like, man, I don't get that. And so, but it did help in watching The Offer, which I thought was one of the best TV shows
really?
I've seen in a while. It is a really, really good effort there. And so I heard Godfather 2 is better. I've yet to see Godfather 2 or 3. So that's it.
That's a great answer.
We were in that
I know,
same
'cause
boat.
Everybody loves Godfather.
No, we were in that same boat, and then Ryan started watching it, and I was like, here and there with it because we had the baby in the house, and I was like, this is kind of a slog.
Yeah.
It's just you really.
I really
have
like
to,
it.
Suck it up
Yeah.
and get through it. I don't know.
No, I really liked it.
One for my wife recently had never seen the Breakfast Club.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, this is a classic. You've got to see it. And I hadn't seen it in years and years.
Yeah.
And so we borrowed a copy from her friend, and we watched it. I'm like, that didn't hit like it
No,
used to. And it's like,
it's
I'm
a
like,
lot of
I mean,
talking.
there's 4 of those kids that are considering suicide, or at least have
Yeah,
talked about it. I'm
it
like,
gets dark.
It's really heavy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Of
Heavier
talking.
than you remember, like the little dancing on the rails or whatever, and some of the other things. And then the worst part was, I'm like, I really kind of relate to the principal now. Right? I'm like, in my mid-40s.
kids.
I'm like, yeah, no, he had a lot of good points. I remember hating the principal back in the 80s, and now it's like, no. He knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. That's a hard one to go back to.
No,
if you've
it
never
is
seen
a lot of really heavy dialogue.
Yeah,
that movie.
it is.
It's not like the fun movie that
No.
anybody
Nope.
remembers for sure. What is the last new movie or TV show you watched?
The Bear.
Great show.
Very good.
Great show.
It's so good.
It is so good.
And I was and for me the hardest part about anything, and I'm sure it's for a lot of people, is it's just getting started in a series. And so I remember it was Hulu several months ago. It was either The Bear or it was the Jeff Bridges one where he was
Old Man.
Old
Yeah.
Man. And then The Bear, okay, just the images in the kitchen. Although I love the actor, I can't remember his name. He just won a Golden Globe in The Bear. He's in. I loved him from Shameless.
Oh yeah. Jeremy
Lip.
Allen White.
Yes.
Yep, Jeremy Allen White. Lip in Shameless, great character. And so I didn't watch it forever, and then finally I'd heard enough about it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start it, and just blew through it. Addicted to it.
It's so good.
Were you starting to say chef in the kitchen?
I
too?
love it. I
Like,
say yes,
corner,
chef in
yes,
there.
Chef,
I was like,
corner.
yes, chef.
I know. I feel like everybody started doing that
Corner
after watching
behind.
the corner
Behind,
yep.
behind, yes, chef.
That lasted about a week in our house, and then it had to taper it off a little bit.
I still do it only because my wife and I still get in each other's way, so I just have to. It's like I gotta
corner behind.
I don't cook at all, so I don't know.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, chef.
So what are some? We could probably guess a couple of these, and I think you've mentioned 2 of them. 1 to 3 of your favorites.
Movies?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't leave this without mentioning one of my favorite movies of all time, The Princess Bride.
Oh, great.
I love The Princess Bride. And so that is my 3rd favorite movie is Fletch Hoosiers, Princess Bride. It's my brother's favorite movie of all time. He's a graphic designer. He's his own T-shirt company. It's called As You Wish Designs.
Amazing.
He's infatuated with the movie. We've just read up on that movie too.
And it's still good. Like we watched it with our kids not long ago, and my oldest was only into it a little bit, but it's still good. Yeah.
Yeah. The only bad
That's a
part
very
is Fred
quotable
Savage.
one.
Fred Savage is the only bad part about it.
You don't like Fred Savage in that
I mean,
movie?
I'm like, we don't need Columbo and Fred Savage
I
in
love
this.
those scenes.
He's such a punk too.
He is.
His grandfather
I know,
too.
he is a punk.
But introducing Robin Wright, her first film.
That's right.
I love Christopher Guest, and then the
Married to
gem,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Yeah.
The gem of that movie to me is Prince Humperdinck, Chris Sarandon. He is so good in that. He's so good in that. And I think I learned that he was married to Susan Sarandon, and then they got divorced, and she just kept that name, I think.
I didn't know.
Or something like that. I always thought they were brother sister, but somebody told me they're married. But he's great. From Andre the Giant to Mandy Patinkin, that is
probably one of my most quotable movies. It's so quotable. It's great. I mean, and you kind of left out Billy Crystal in that movie.
One of the greatest cameo scenes ever.
Yeah.
Him and Carol Kane. Mm-hmm. And I've read. I mean, he ad-libbed so much. The MLT, the lettuce tomato. It's so good. Chocolate coating makes it go down easier.
Do you remember when you first saw that movie?
I was a kid. It came out in like '86. It's so funny. My when I throw in Red Dawn and The Outsiders, my friends send me like all your favorite movies came out within like 3 weeks of each other in the '80s. I'm like, I think they did.
Yeah.
I think they did. And so I would have seen it like '86, '87, something like that when it came out. Carrie Elway's.
Do you think you saw it in theater? Or was that
I don't think I did.
Rented?
I don't think
rented
I
it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also directed by Rob Reiner, who has one of the craziest filmographies.
Yeah.
He's just bounces all over the place. Like When Harry Met Sally, Princess Bride, Few Good Men. Crazy.
But no, it's a love story. You got action adventure. It's hilarious.
You sound like the grandpa right now.
I know.
Talking to
I
Fred
do.
Savage. What's not to love?
What's not to love? It's the kissing part.
Well, this was great, Mick.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for knowing so much about movies. I feel like you should host.
You lay in a lot of trivia. We'll just replace Chris. He's not here anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I don't know if I know. I just watch him. That's all.
You should be a guest host sometime. Or something.
Absolutely. Let me know.
All right.
I work right down the hall. 1 floor down.
1 floor down.
Yeah.
Not my pig, not my problem.
Not my pig, not my fault.
Not my problem. That's right.
All right.
That's it.
Thanks, Mick.
You bet.